Okay, so just really quick, I wanted to record something because people were asking me about something that happened last week at the Presbyterian Church in America. There are many different types of Presbyterians in the world, so I want to make sure that we're all talking about the same ones. It's the PCA. It is the branch of the Presbyterian Church that began in 1973 and just celebrated its 50th anniversary not that long ago. And they met in Chattanooga last week, and there was a headline that came out of Chattanooga in their newspaper that said, Presbyterians condemned Christian nationalism. Now, I want to make it really clear that they did not. That is not what happened. First of all, the PCA did not condemn Christian nationalism. What they did was take a vote to study Christian nationalism and to come up with a report by a study committee that discussed Christian nationalism from a biblical point of view and from the standards. The standards, if you're not familiar, they are the Westminster Catechisms and the Book of Church Order and other documents. And so there's a group of people that will be appointed called the study committee that will get together and create a report. They'll do some research, they'll have conversations, and they'll vote on a final report to present to the General Assembly. I'm assuming next year. Maybe it'll take them 2 years. Some study committees take longer than others. Now, one of the things to note about study committees is that whatever they come up with is not binding. It's not constitutional in and of itself. So they'll have recommendations, but no one has to actually follow through on them. Nothing actually has to be done after a study report comes out. These are the recommendations. Local churches can take it upon themselves to read through it, make their own kind of policies based on that study. We've had several of these over the years. Since I've been a member of the PCA, which has been since 2007, I've only read a few of them. I mean, these are big deals. They're pretty long. They tend to be very, very thorough because Presbyterians, right? And so we end up with this document that has a lot of definitions and theology, orthodoxy, and orthopraxy. When we say these are the things that we determined, we researched and studied and discussed these issues, and here's some of our recommendations for how to move forward. For example, years ago, they did a study on women in ministry and their roles. And so they come out with a recommendation that said something, that kind of gave some leeway to women in certain roles. And then there was the birth of some churches gave birth to women as deacons. Like they came right out and appointed women to the diaconate. Now I don't want to go down the rabbit trails, just an example. Because what these study committees do is create all of these recommendations that churches can act on and presbyteries can act on. And within the Presbyterian form of government, the presbytery can then come together and create an overture. An overture is much like a bill that goes to the House or the Senate or whoever, and they end up writing up these things and say, well, we should make this law, right? We should codify it. We should put it into writing. Like, because we understand this and this and this about this issue, we want to create a law that will address that issue. And that's where overtures come to be. We recently had another study committee. I think it was the last one that we've had before this. Correct me if I am wrong. The DASA, it's known as the Domestic and Sexual Abuse Study Report, which had several recommendations on different forms of abuse within the church. It was an excellent report. Had a lot of great information and education that churches should absolutely read together and make sure everyone knows this is where we stand as a denomination. Now, again, the study report itself cannot tell every church what to do. That's not what it does. It studies the issue and presents all of its findings, and then gives recommendations based on those findings. Do you see where I'm going with this? This study committee on Christian nationalism is going to do a couple things. First of all, it's going to define Christian nationalism. Now, that in itself is its whole own report, right? Defining what it is, that can, in a way that's going to be agreed upon by an entire committee. I don't know how many people are going to be on this committee, and I don't know who's on the committee. I'm not sure if anybody knows yet. The committee is appointed by the moderator of the General Assembly. I won't go into that. I have my own opinions, but I'm just going to hold off on that for now. But once the committee is put together and they are given the authority to meet together they probably do Zoom. It used to be they actually traveled and got together at some points. They used to do that, but as the denomination got bigger, obviously that became more and more cost prohibitive. And so now they just meet on Zoom. But they'll come together and they'll talk about the scope of the work, and they'll talk about what they need to cover and how much research they need to do. And depending who's on the committee, hopefully they'll get people who have already done a lot of the work. Because here we are in 2025, and we should have a better handle on what Christian nationalism is. There have been lots of books that have come out on Christian nationalism. There's been people on all sides. And even if you just take a book that you disagree with in theology, you can still have this. This is the definition. This is what the people within Christian nationalism define themselves as. This is what they say they are. And that, should we take them at their word? Yeah. This is who they say they are. This is what they want. This is what defines them. So it'll be interesting who gets on the committee, A, and B, what they end up recommending. Because at the crux of the matter, in my mind and in the minds of many people that I've talked with and read, even people that disagree with me on many things, we all feel like Christian nationalism is kind of this big umbrella that kind of carries a lot of things with it. We need some clarity on what that is. But the crux of the matter is, what do churches do about this move towards Christian nationalism for a lot of people? Because there is no doubt in my mind that there is an influence. I've seen evidence of it when people have come in. There are organizations that have many ties and inroads into the PCA that are solidly calling themselves Christian nationalists and saying Christian nationalism is not that bad. And it's actually, not only do you kind of have steps, right, like gradations. People who are, oh, Christian nationalism is not that bad. They actually have some good ideas, right? And then you have the people who are like, Christian nationalism is the only way forward. It's the only way Christians can move forward in this country. Like, we have to win the country back to God, right? We have to. It's the culture war 2.0. It's this idea of kind of crusading, all of it. So this report, this study committee will need to address the very real influence of Christian nationalism within the doors, within the pulpit, within the pews of the Presbyterian Church in America. And if there is that influence, is it sinful? Does it cross a line, according to the Westminster Standards, into sinful territory? And if it does, how do we deal with that within our churches? And it will be a needle to thread for the study to identify where those influences exist. And I'm going to tell you right now, they won't do it. I want to say it on record. Now listen, if I'm wrong and they do, then come back and they say things that they need to be said and name names and point fingers at where those dots are being connected, because there are dots within the PCA that are connected to Christian nationalism and its influence in our churches. And so if they don't connect those dots in a meaningful way, I don't know how they come back with a report that's usable, that's serious enough to do anything. I really don't. I don't know how they give this thing any legs and just make it just patting people on the head, like, you just do the best you can with what you have, right? Listen, my husband, a former pastor, a teaching elder in the PCA, in 2020, got into a lot of trouble because he spoke out against white supremacy, and he spoke out against Christian nationalism. And he got into a lot of trouble with our denomination. He got, a target on his back. He already had a target on his back for other reasons. Things like he and I were very much in support of Revoice and trying to better engage and support the LGBTQ plus community. We were trying to engage well with people I know personally, people I love dearly, who I would protect with my life. We were trying to encourage them and support them and trying to figure out the right way to do that in the context we were in. And it was hard. It's hard. And eventually we just couldn't do it anymore. We had to leave. And, the needle that I was trying to thread at the time in 2020 is that the way that we treat the people that we have these theological differences with is more a problem than the actual theological difference. Like, I still believe that to this day, that in ministry, the way that we engage with people we disagree with means more than us being able to, create a theological argument for what we believe. And that's where the PCA errs. That for me, study committees, right? It's like we can make this amazing report. We could say all the right things and do all the right research and create all the right statements. But if we're not learning how to engage well with real people who are really being affected by these issues, whose lives are totally upturned by our theological prowess or whatever, if we're not engaging well with those people, then we've lost the plot. And we lose the plot in that we are no longer, it's like we're not even trying to win them to Christ anymore. We're just making sure they know that they're lost. We're making sure that they know that they're going to hell. And I'm not even 100% sure that we can say, oh, you're going to hell. We don't know. We do not know. There's so much wrong about pronouncing that on anyone. You are not God. You are not God. I'm not God. I don't know. I don't know what your story is going to be. I don't know what it's been so far. I don't know where you're heading. I don't know I don't know. All that to say, I need to make it very clear that nobody in my former camp of PCA has condemned Christian nationalism. Not yet. And I, for one, am not holding my breath. I don't hold my breath on very much. But let me tell you right now that there is so much about the PCA that aligns with Christian nationalist ideals. And there are so many key figures within the PCA that make excuses. Even if they're not outright aligning themselves fully with Christian nationalism, they make a lot of excuses for it, and they give them a whole lot of room to maneuver, if you will. And there's all these weird, intertwining groups. I've named groups that we see in the public eye, and I've named names of people in the public eye who are solidly within the PCA. And so the study committee is going to have to tread carefully. I know they will. For one thing, let me say one good thing about the PCA. I do believe that most of the people in the PCA are very logical, reasonable people. They try, not all of them, obviously, I don't know them all. The ones I know personally, the men and women that I know personally who are in the PCA, who are still there, or those of us who've left, like all the people I know personally tend to be very gracious, logical, reasonable people. They really do try to take things seriously, step by step. Let's not be rash. Let's not be hyperbolic, right? I'm probably the most hyperbolic person I know, which is hyperbole, at least within the PCA. That said, I also know in the heat of the war and the conflicts that I've been in, just how rash and irresponsible and unreasonable people can be, because they just want to be right. They have to be right. They absolutely hate the idea that you're saying, someone like me tells them they're wrong. I mean, I've absolutely had those conversations with people who were just disgusted by the idea that I called them wrong, or that I said that they did something that they should not have done. So when it comes to something as heated and as relevant as the Christian nationalism question of today, I do hope and pray that cooler heads will prevail, but that they won't be so cool and so logical that they'll end up with some document that doesn't really say much of anything at all, and that it'll be unhelpful, and that they're not going to really make any headway, and they'll just give everybody a pass. And that I think, if I were to place bets, if I were a betting man, I think that's where they're going to end up, because no one's going to want to say the things that need to be said, because they don't, it's hard to say. Maybe half. I mean, let's be like generous and say like it's 50-50 that the General Assembly of the PCA commiserates a little bit with the Christian nationalism and thinks, yeah, we do need to take this country back for God. And so if that's true, then you're going to end up with a report that praises all the good things. I mean, look at all the good we're doing, right? Like, look at all the good that Christian nationalism could do. But it's hard. It's hard to be a Christian in America right now. It's hard to see where that line is. And everyone's constantly telling all of us we're crossing Rubicons, right? Like, you just can't come back from it. And I don't know. I hope we can. I think we can. In my opinion, we can. But it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot out of us. And there's going to have to be some sacrifices made. And I'm exhausted. I am exhausted. There's been so much going on for me personally, for my family. And then on top of that, I've been trying to be involved locally, trying to figure out where I can be of the most use. And that's hard. It's hard work. Tumbling. It's good. I hope you're finding that too. If you have questions, please feel free. I mean, if I know, or if I don't know, I could find out. I'm happy to try, because I want to make sense of it all too. Thank you.